Hello everyone, this is Prasanjit Ghosh and welcome to the Masterful Master. Today we'll be discussing about the important works of the Anglo-Norman period. The first poet about whom we'll be talking about is Geoffrey of Monmouth. Geoffrey of Monmouth is one of the major figures in the development of British historiography. He is best known for his chronicle Historia Regum Britannia or De Gestis Brittonum or the History of the Kings of Britain. Well, Geoffrey's book gives a detailed account of the life of the old kings of Britain and history dating from Roman era and climaxing with the reign of King Arthur. This work is one of the central pieces of the matter of Britain. The book begins with the settlement of Britain by Brutus of Troy. Geoffrey also wrote Prophetia Merlini and Vita Merlini. The second poet is Wace. He wrote Roman da Brute, a verse history of Britain. It is based on Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia. It is written in the Norman language. The third poet about whom we'll be talking about is Lamon. Lamon is an English poet. His notable work is Brute. Well, Brute is a Middle English poem. This work is inspired by Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia and Wace's Roman da Brute. This work includes the life and exploits of King Arthur. Another poet is Gawain poet or Pearl poet. The actual name of this poet is unknown, so he is called by the name of his work, that is Gawain poet or Pearl poet. Pearl poet or Gawain poet wrote in Northwest Midland dialect. He has written 4 poems in a single manuscript. The poems are Purity, Patience, Pearl and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is one of the best known Arthurian stories. It is an example of medieval romance and adventure story about a heroic quest. This poem was made popular by J.R.R. Tolkien in the modern times. The poem presents the test of Sir Gawain's moral character and knight code of chivalry. Knight's code of chivalry is the strict restriction and guidelines a true knight should follow. Sir Gawain, a knight of King Arthur's Round Table, accepts a challenge from a mysterious green knight, who challenges any knight to strike him with his axe only if he is able to take a return blow in a year. Gawain accepts the challenge and cuts off the green knight's head. The green knight picks up his sliced head and leaves, telling Gawain to look for the green chapel. Near the end of the allotted year, Gawain sets out in search of the green chapel. He finds a castle in wilderness. The lord of the castle asks Gawain to stay until the New Year's Day because the green chapel is nearby. The lord proposes an agreement. He will go out hunting while Gawain stays at the castle, and 2 men will exchange whatever they have gained at the end of the day. Sir Gawain meets Lady Bertilac in the castle. This lady tries to seduce Gawain in his bed. Gawain politely refuses her advances, although he does give her some kisses. Finally, she offers him a magic belt, also known as the Green Girdle. This belt will protect the life of any man who wears it. Gawain repays the lord his lady kisses as per the agreement, but he doesn't mention the belt. Gawain finally finds the Green Knight. The Green Knight raises his axe twice but draws back. Third time, the Green Knight barely cuts Gawain on the neck. The Green Knight reveals that he was the one at the castle as Lord Bertilac. Lord Bertilac claims that the first 2 blows were in return for the way Gawain returned the kisses of the lady, wife of Lord Bertilac, following the rules of their games as an honest man should. The third blow, he says, for Gawain's failure to return the green girdle to him on the last day. But because Gawain's failing was only because he wanted to save his life and not because he is just dishonorable, the Green Knight forgives him. He leaves Gawain with a scar and a girdle as a reminder of his very human sin. Refusing Bertilac's offer of further hospitality, Gawain returns to Arthur's court. He tells the story of his adventure and declares that he will wear the girdle for the rest of his life as a reminder of his failure. The other knights wear the girdle as well, as a sign of support. This tradition is carried down through generation and became a symbol of honor. Three religious poems by Pearl poet or Gawain poet. The first one is Pearl. Pearl is a medieval allegory which is a dream vision poem. It involves dream of a father who is mourning a loss of daughter Pearl. He falls asleep in the garden and in his dream he encounters Pearl dressed in a heavenly clothes and standing near the heavenly city. She says that she is a kind of a person who can take father to the heavenly city, but when this dreamer attempts to cross a stream, he awakens from the dream and reflects on its significance. In the dream, the father and the daughter were separated by a stream. The second religious poem is Patience. Patience is a Middle English alliterative poem written in the late 14th century. The poem opens with a lengthy discussion of the nature of patience. The poet then relates the Old Testament story of Prophet Jonah, which is the poem's central episode. In Patience, God's justice is ultimately characterized by mercy, not destruction. The main source of patience is the book of Jonah in the Old Testament. The third religious poetry is Purity or Cleanness. Purity or cleanness is a description of virtues of cleanliness of body and delights of married love. It also talks about the three subjects from the Bible. It talks about the flood which happened at the end, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and fall of Belshazzar. In each case, the poet warns his readers about the dangers of defilement and joy of purity. Now we'll discuss some of the famous poems during the Middle English period. The first one is the Chanson de Geste. It is taken from the Matter of France. It is composed in the Old French or Norman language. It narrates the legendary incidents in the history of France during the 8th, 9th and the 10th century and during the age of Charlemagne. Example of Chanson de Geste is the Song of Roland. Chanson de Geste is basically a genre. The Song of the Roland is an epic poem based on the Battle of Roncesvalles Pass in 778 AD during the reign of Charlemagne. The second poem is Owl and a Nightingale, a Middle English poem which deals with a debate between an owl and a nightingale overheard by a poem's narrator. This is an early example of debate poetry. In this poem, a man overhears two birds, an owl and a nightingale, engaging in a heated debate about a range of topics, arguing over their respective songs, each other's appearance, the follies and the weakness of humankind, even the lack of toilet training skills. Cursor Mundi. It's a Middle English poem written around 1300 AD by an unknown author. Cursor Mundi, translated as Runner of the World. The poem summarizes the history of the world as described in the Christian Bible. Cursor Mundi is divided into 7 parts. These parts resembles the 7 ages of salvation. Ancrana Ruvala or Ancrana Vesi. It was written in the 13th century. It's a manual for anchoresses, explaining the different aspects of religious rule and devotional conduct. An anchoress was a deeply religious woman who chose to live in a solitary life in a confined quarters called an anchorage or an anchorhold, which usually consisted of a single small cell. The work is divided into 8 parts. Part 1 and 8 deals with what is called the outer rule or exterior life, while Part 2 to Part 7 deals with the inner rule or interior life. That's all from the Anglo-Norman period. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much and stay safe.